Welcome into Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio. I'm Matt Neverett, and along with Alex White, we're going to give you all the college action you're going to handle tonight, as there's another big night in college hoops. Curtis Terry, former UNLV player and current UNLV broadcaster, joins us in about 30 minutes to break down the Rebels' win over number 21 San Diego State last night and his thoughts on the potential of a 7-bid Mountain West Conference. Plenty more coming up with Curtis Terry at 3:30. Be sure to leave us your live comments. Like, comment, and subscribe on the channel as well as we roll into another busy day of college basketball. Alex, thanks for joining us here. We're both pulling double duty today.
Yes, we are. And the goal is to get as many live comments as Frank gets on Punchline. So please comment below. Give us your best bets for the night. Yeah. We'll go through each game and see how we feel. Hopefully
the birthday boy Beattown Dummy still tuned in as the Punchlines crew rolls over here into Sports by the Book. And normally on a Wednesday, Alex, the college basketball slate not this heavy, but today we have a full slate of action and then some. There's a lot of really good matchups.
There is, and we're down to second to last, maybe last game for most of these teams. Saturday will be our last really big slate. I think we still have 100 games, but then after that, it's all conference tournaments, which we started on Monday, slowly adding them throughout the week. But you're right, we have a really good card today. I'm excited to get down and go through some of these games.
And it almost doesn't sound real when you put it like that we are in the last or the second to last game for every team across the country.
I know. It's sad. I just showed you Ken Palm. I said, Matt, look at it. You start out with the year, there's no red or green whether they won or lost, and now here we are all the way down to the bottom.
And the conference tournaments in full swing. Well, maybe a play or two on some of the tournament games today. A lot of the lower conference tournaments so far have had some crazy games. We saw North Florida with that buzzer beater over Lipscomb last night. Frank Nicotero, host of Punchlines here on the network, set the number of buzzer beaters from now until the end of the college tournament as a whole at 14.5. That may be the sharpest line Frank has ever handicapped.
Very good. Very good. I think I lean over since we're including the conference tournaments as well and then going into March Madness. So I think I lean to the over. What about you?
I tend to lean over as well. And I don't know data or historical numbers on this, but just a feel thing, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there might have been if we took some time and really got into it. But you know, we had to handicap these games today.
That's why they pay our friends behind the counter the big bucks. That's why they earn the big bucks. And one of the guys behind the counter here at the South Point, our friend Vinny Maiulo, will join us at the end of the show, kind of breaking down the handle and some of the main storylines from behind the betting counter. But let's get right into it, Alex. Let's jump into some of our favorite games of the day. And as I mentioned, there's a lot of games featuring ranked teams here on a Wednesday night. Let's start it off with the number one team in the land, shall we? Number one, Houston. At Central Florida, 673, 674 on the rotation numbers. 8.5 points, the line on Houston, a 131 total, as we're used to seeing. That game getting underway right now. Do you have a play on this one as it gets underway?
I did take the points here with UCF at home. Now, Houston won the first matchup 57-42 at home, so we have a little revenge here with Central Florida. And Houston's just slipped up a little bit lately. 2-6-1 against the spread. Of course, they've still won all of their games, which is good, but they've looked a little beatable lately, and we're almost taken down in their last game. UCF comes into this one 11-6 against the spread at home, so I just think the number's too big. We have UCF, who's the third best defense in the Big 12. They're also the best block percentage team in the Big 12, so I think they can hang in there. I told you the score of the first one. They did lose by 16, but now they're on their own home court. You're getting 8.5. I see some value there.
And in a macro sense, looking at the national championship futures number, Houston was 7-1, now 5-1 to win the national title. You mentioned they have not been as sharp as we've seen from Kelvin Sampson teams. Even this team earlier in the year, they've been giving up a lot more points on the defensive side recently than they were at the beginning of the year, for sure.
They have, and I keep plugging it, but, I mean, it's a really tough conference, right? And if you look at them being number one across the country in defense, but then if you look at conference, then Iowa State kind of jumps them there because they have been very tight, very good in conference play, especially defensively, and we've seen Houston, like you mentioned, give up a few more points than lately.
Yeah, especially in their last couple of games. So that matchup just getting started. Might be just about a minute away from tip. So if you like UCF like Alex, now is the time. I love just the timing of this show, by the way, a little sidebar. From 3 to 4 here on the West Coast, 4 o'clock is when just about every single game in the country tips off. So we have a great kind of insight here in this hour leading up into that nationwide tip time for a lot of those 7 o'clock East Coast starts to really have that last hour to really crucially handicap. It's like how I was as a student, where I did my best studying within the 1 hour before the test. That's kind of what this show is like from a timing perspective.
We're going back into comparing our study habits, right?
We did that on Monday, too, yeah.
We did.
It goes to show.
But it is funny. And, it just depends. Like, a lot of times it's great to get that early number, but sometimes when you wait till this last hour before, you can actually get some good value here, depending on over-unders or dogs or favorites.
We got a big matchup in the SEC tonight. SEC, really solid top to bottom nationally. We saw Florida railroad Alabama yesterday, kind of an unexpected result there. This game coming up tonight between number 4 Tennessee and South Carolina from Columbia, 689-690, 5.5 points the spread. The Volunteers on the road, looking for revenge after a loss against South Carolina earlier this year in Knoxville. I like the Volunteers. I'm going to be thinking orange tonight.
Yeah, I'm with you. I did not play this one, but I would definitely lean to Tennessee. I love revenge. I say it almost every show, but South Carolina won the first one 63-59 at home in Tennessee's building. So they're going to go there, be fired up, and they've been playing outstanding basketball. So I would only look at the Vols here.
I got some numbers from that past matchup. As you mentioned, a 63-59 win for the Gamecocks in Knoxville. South Carolina was 15 of 18 from the free throw line, so they were really efficient in taking advantage of the fouls and the mistakes from Tennessee. The Volunteers in that game, Alex, were 5 of 21 from beyond the three-point line, and were just 12 of 20, that's 60%, from the free throw stripe. And I don't think that both of those are going to carry over into this game. Tennessee is a much better team offensively, especially than that 5 for 21 mark from beyond the arc suggests. Tennessee also 5-1 ATS in their last 6, so they come in a bit of recent form as well. I like the Volunteers. I've got this one loaded in the account, laying the 5.5.
Man, I mean, they have just been outstanding, right, on the road or home. We saw that big win over Alabama, 81-74, and then at home took care of business the game before against Auburn. So, really, you can count on this team. I mean, they're getting hot at the right time.
Yeah, and my younger brother Drew also went to South Carolina, so there's I don't want to say a personal revenge spot, but I like ribbing them. The Gamecocks have been an upstart team all year. They are a really impressive squad. Ever since they got rid of Frank Martin, they've been really good, which is a shame because he's a damn good coach. This Gamecocks team, really surprising. They were up as high as, I think, number 14 in the country at one point this year. Yeah. But this is a game that I think Tennessee needs to win. And as you had mentioned, and we've been talking about it pretty much for the last 2 weeks, you and I, these revenge spots are certainly bettable angles when you get to this time of year at the end of the schedule.
Absolutely, especially when you have seed 1, seed 2 here in the SEC. Yeah. So they're both going to be ready for this one. It's going to be a great game. And you're right, South Carolina has been a very big surprise and a very good basketball team. I really like how they slow it down. They play at a very slow pace, take 19.6 average seconds per possession on offense. So they slow it down, they try and control the games, and they've done very well at that. Now they've got this Tennessee team coming in, though, so we'll see what happens here.
Tempo for South Carolina, one of the reasons why I felt a little bit more confident in my bet on Tennessee. South Carolina comes in 254th in the country, 354th out of 362 in tempo. They are one of the bottom 10 slowest playing teams in the country. I just think that if Tennessee gets a lead, if they get up by 10, 12 points at any point in this one, I just don't think that South Carolina has the motor to be able to step on the gas and come back.
Well, that's what's really tough about those teams that do play at that pace, right? It kind of, if they can control it from the beginning throughout the game, they can hold them. Kind of like UNLV we saw with them against the Aztecs yesterday, because they like to play the same way. But the minute that other team gets going, it's kind of downhill from there. But we'll see. They do kind of suffer on defense, right? That's one thing I look for. I like when teams either match offense or defense, average possession time. And this team slows it down on offense, and then on defense, 17.6 seconds. So that means teams can fast break against them, and have their way. On the flip side, Tennessee, 15.8 on offense, 18.2 on defense. So good transition defense can slow them right down, get in a spot, and make South Carolina really work for it.
Yeah, Tennessee 67th in tempo. So you're talking 67 versus 354. One of these teams is going to be ready to go, and the game needs to be sped up. So This is an interesting matchup. Number 4 Tennessee at number 17 South Carolina. I'm on the Volunteers, laying the 5.5 this game starting right when we get off the air at 4 o'clock. I think the other most interesting matchup, and the one that I had my eyes on when we looked at the slate, Alex, is 701-702 on the rotation number. Number 20 BYU at number 6 Iowa State. The Cyclones laying the 7.5. Kind of a high total for an Iowa State game, but BYU with their shooting prowess, the reason why. It's a 146-point over-under. This game's starting at 6, and this is a really unique spread. It's not overly big. It's something that Iowa State certainly could cover, but this BYU team, you never know what you're going to get from them in terms of their three-point shooting. You know they're going to shoot a lot. It's just a matter of how many they make.
Yeah, you're right. It is tough to handicap this one. I think the number is just right. If you want to add a little bit more to Iowa State because they have revenge, BYU won the first one 87-72, then I'm fine with that. Put you to a lean on Iowa State a little bit here. I mean, BYU has struggled on the road. We've talked about it all year. 5-7 against the spread, averaging 77 points compared to 83 throughout the season. So that's a pretty big drop off, 6 points there. And Iowa State has been the best covering team in the Big 12. They're 11-4 against the spread in conference play. I still think they're a little bit undervalued. So 7.5, I don't think it's too many. I think they can cover this here. And you're right. I think that total is too high. It's come down a little bit, 147 on the overnight, even some 147.5. So I lean to the under in this one as well. Iowa State 4-1 to the under in their last 5 home games. They can really control the pace and their defense, top 2 in the country.
Chris Andrews behind us was telling us that one of his big respected bettors who's from Ames, Iowa, said that he bet the other side. He said that number was too big for the Cyclones to cover.
You know, sometimes, though, people tend to do that for their team, right? Like last week I said that number was way too big for UNLV to cover against San Jose, and I was way wrong. They won by 20 in that one. So your toughest critic is the fans, right?
Of course.
So it's tough, but I don't know. I didn't really touch the side, but if I were to bet it, you made me bet it, it would definitely be on the Cyclones.
Well, we were talking before the show went on the air about some potential live betting spots in this game. And,
yes.
We had JJ, what was his last name?
Uribe.
JJ Uribe on Monday came on and gave us some really good picks. I think most of the ones he gave us were winners. But he had said that BYU is one of his favorite teams to live bet throughout the year. And I kind of smiled because I've been doing that all year. Not necessarily betting on BYU explicitly in these live betting spots, but they're a team where the early part of the game tells you more about how the rest of the game is going to go than a lot of other teams around the country. So this is a game where I'll look to get in on a live betting spot. I think if BYU takes an early lead, you had mentioned too that Iowa State typically is a slow starting team. You'll see that a lot with defensive-minded teams, and they kind of have to get into shape and step on the gas offensively in the second half. I think this is going to be a game where I look to get in live. If BYU takes an early, let's say 10-point lead, I think that Iowa State's going to be able to make the adjustments on the defensive end and kind of ramp up the pressure on the offensive side. So that's going to be where I look to play this game. I got nothing pre-flop.
I like it. And make sure you jump in before the actual halftime bet, because with Iowa State, last week they were at home against Oklahoma. Oklahoma had the lead up until 2 minutes going until halftime, and Iowa State came back and scored 6, or maybe scored 5. So they were up by 4. They didn't cover the 4.5, but they did make a push there at the end. So, jump in, especially if they're down and you're laying a little bit less there.
Yeah. I would say the under 4 timeout, the under 4 media break at the end of the first half is about when I would look to get in, because by then you kind of know how the game is going to go and what adjustments the coaching staffs are going to look to make, because that's another important factor, is kind of just trying to get into the minds of these coaches and figure out what are those adjustments that they're going to make that you can then bet on.
Absolutely. And you know that more than anyone. You talk with all the coaches and are very close, especially Mountain West, but you can relate that to these other conferences.
So we'll see. Yeah, this one at 6 o'clock, Iowa State laying the 7.5 against BYU, who has been really surprising in their first year in the Big 12. Last note I want to bring up on this game, I called yesterday UNLV baseball against BYU. Was talking to their announcer who had been with the school for a long time, and we were talking about the BYU team going into the Big 12 in all sports, not just in baseball or basketball specifically. But he mentioned the first time through the Big 12 is a gauntlet, and football was uniquely positioned to make the move because they come from the independent ranks. Basketball, it's so much easier to turn over a roster year to year with the way that it is now. He told me baseball's going to struggle. But this basketball team in the Big 12 really surprising a lot of people in the best basketball conference in the country.
Hey, even Jeff Parles will admit that because he had them finishing about 10th in the conference. So he's been pleasantly surprised too with this BYU team.
He's not alone. He's not alone at all. We'll see what they can do against a really defensive-minded TJ Otzelberger coach team at Iowa State at 6 o'clock tonight. Going back a bit, a game that starts at 5:30. The best game of the night in terms of the rankings. 703, 704. It's number 2 Connecticut at number 8 Marquette. Marquette, a 5-point home dog in a game that starts at 5:30. 151.5 the total. This really is the matchup of the night around college basketball. It may not be the most exciting game of the evening in terms of the watch value. I think that BYU-Iowa State game is going to be a barn burner, a lot of fun to watch. But this one, in terms of top-level, high-tier basketball, is as good as it gets on Wednesday.
That's funny you mentioned that. That reminds me of when Iowa State and Houston played. I was so excited, sat down to watch, and I was like, oh, this is kind of brutal to watch. I think we might have another one here. UConn, impressive win the first time they played each other, 81-53, but they were on their home court. Marquette has a little bit of revenge here. I didn't do anything here, Matt. UConn is 10-3 straight up and 9-4 against the spread on the road. Very impressive. Marquette 14-1 straight up at home, 11-4 against the spread at home. So I didn't know what to do here. I made the number 6, giving a little bit to Marquette here, but I don't think that 5.5 is really enough for me to go and grab it.
It's tough. And I mean, we're less than a month removed from just about everybody being in agreement that UConn was far and away the best team in the country. And it's funny how that narrative kind of shifts as we get closer to tournament time. They're still one of the top 5 teams. They come in number 2. I think in my mind, they're still a top 5 team in the country, but just how the public vernacular has changed around this UConn team over the last month as other teams have kind of started to get to where they were. I'm thinking Houston, I'm thinking Purdue, I'm thinking Kentucky, teams like that are really getting hot at the right time. And really through no fault of their own, this UConn team running through a really tough Big East has kind of fallen in terms of the national mind.
I'm glad that you actually brought that up, and that kind of reminds me to keep an eye on this UConn team because we know what they can do in the tournament. We saw it last year. They were very impressive. It was after this game, actually. They played Marquette. They blew them out. Everybody was very high on them. And then Creighton took the perfect opportunity and won that one against UConn. And now you're right. No one has really been talking about the Huskies. So keep them in mind. Don't count them out. That's for sure. We'll see how this matchup goes tonight.
Yeah, too good, too well coached. I am on the total. I like under 151.5 in this game. That's a number that's actually come down. This game starting at 5:30, so you got a little bit of time. As you mentioned, it's the second matchup in 2 weeks. The total, the last time these two met on the 17th of February, 147.5 point total. They combined to score 134. They went 13.5 points under that total, and then 2 weeks later, it's 5 points higher. I don't necessarily agree with that, especially because Tyler Kolek is out for Marquette. This is a 15-point-per-game scorer in Kolek, who's going to be out for this game. He was in for the first matchup. UConn is also 332nd in tempo. We were talking about the tempo with South Carolina. They're 15th in adjusted defense. Marquette 18th in adjusted defense on Ken Pumps. These are two great defensive teams, one of whom plays at a really slow pace, the other one of whom is missing their second leading scorer. And in terms of the history, these two teams have combined for under 152 points in 6 of their last 8 matchups, including the last 2. The last 2 have been 134 and 138. So they've gone way under this 147. Last number and trend I got for you, Marquette, following a game where they go over. The last 10 times they've gone over, the next game has gone under 9 times out of those 10 games. So it is a trend. It's history. I like the numbers that go into this one. I think this is an elevated total, and I'm going to play it under 151.5. I
like it. And you know what? Even for as fast as Marquette is pace-wise, 70th in the country, if you look at their average possession time on defense, 19 seconds. So they really slow it down. Very good defense, as you mentioned, 18th in the country right now. And then Connecticut, I mean, they're slow either way, their pace, offense and defense. So I think that is the right move there, under.
Looking in the SEC, Vanderbilt at number 15, Kentucky. I've got nothing in this one. Huge number, 17.5 points. Do you think Kentucky has the offensive firepower to roll Vanderbilt out of Rupp Arena like that?
I don't know. It's a lot of points here, and Kentucky has been on quite the stretch. Impressive win over Alabama. impressive comeback against Arkansas where
Certainly.
I thought they were almost going to upset them in that one. So can they keep it going? We will see. I mean, they averaged 94 points a game at home, shooting 53.5% from the field. So if anything, I might look at the over here, but it's already pretty high at 161. And I don't know if Vandy can help us get too many points on the board. So,
I don't think so.
Yeah, I didn't do anything here. It seems like a lot of points, but
I agree. But if there's anyone that can do it and get that 18-point win, it's Kentucky. I'm not on it, though. We'll see. Another game that I'm not on, but I've got an opinion on, is the next one down, the final game featuring a ranked team today. It's number 22, Utah State, laying 10.5 at San Jose State. I've been to that arena. Really no home court advantage to speak of for San Jose State. There are only 2 Mountain West Conference wins were against Air Force, who is the only team below them in the conference. And 3 of San Jose State's last 4 losses have come by 18 or more points, including a 21-point loss at Utah Tech earlier in the season. Like I said, I've got nothing, but if I were to play this one, I'd look for Utah State or nothing else.
See, and I would look at the under here, mostly because of what you're saying about San Jose State and 185th offensively in the country. They also play slow, 266th in the country, 18.2 average possession length. So, yeah, I would look to the under here. Utah State is a quicker tempo, but they're just 8-8 in conference. Over under, so nothing really trendy there, but San Jose, yeah, I would look to the under here. I think that's too many points.
We'll talk about the Mountain West coming up with Curtis Terry, who has both played and broadcasted in the Mountain West for almost the last 20 years, if you can believe that. But Utah State right now controls their own destiny in the Mountain West. They are a half game up on 4 teams. There's 5 teams within a half a game of the regular season Mountain West title with 2 games to go. Utah State plays San Jose State and then at New Mexico at the Pit to end the season on Saturday. So we'll definitely get CT's thoughts on that. Looking at the games not featuring any ranked teams. This is one that we were both talking about a lot before the show, is Villanova at Seton Hall. And this is a line that has moved a ton over the last couple of hours even.
Yeah, I like Nova here. I thought the wrong team was favored, so I went ahead and took them on the money line at even money. So it has flipped this that way, which is usually a good sign. But Villanova, current form, playing much better, 5-1 straight up in their last 6 and against the spread. They're holding teams to 60 points in their last 5 compared to 65 on the year. Opponents shooting down to 37% in those 5 games. So Villanova's defense playing very good. They are 13th in adjusted defense efficiency on KenPom, and they've really proven that down the stretch here. They did win the first one. It's going against my whole revenge, but they won 80-54.
Smoked them.
Yeah, so I think they can do that same thing, control the pace. They play slow and definitely stay in this one if you're taking the 1 point, but now it's a little late. But I think they can pull this off and win here, even at Seton Hall.
And the difference between laying a point and catching a point in a game like this, not terrible, especially at this time of year in a game that's moved. I got nothing, but Villanova, if I had to play it, would be my pick on the money line, even with them laying it right now as the favorite. Villanova comes in hot. 5 of their last 6 games have been wins. Their only loss over that stretch was against UConn. So this is a team that has basically smoked everybody they've played in the Big East outside of what some people, I guess, used to think and still might think is the best team in the country in UConn. So this one's starting in about 8 minutes. That one at Seton Hall if you want to get your bets in there. One game that I'm looking at in the American Conference today is Rice at Charlotte. And I'm on the 49ers, laying a bigger number than I'd like, but I really like the matchup. They opened, Charlotte did, as a 6-point favorite, all the way up to 7.5. That's where I played it. I'm a little bit late to the party, but that's one of those hold your nose and hope for the best type games. Charlotte, both of these teams, I should say, on losing streaks. Rice has lost their last 2. Charlotte has lost their last 3, but at home, Charlotte has won 9 of their last 10. 49ers coming in with a good recent form outside of this current losing streak. Rice lost their last 2. They've lost 2 of their last 3 road games as well. And the big number for me in this one, Alex, is that Rice, in their last 5 games, make it the last 3, still, last 3 games have averaged under 60 points a game. So they are in the doldrums offensively. It's not that they're struggling. They just can't score.
Yeah, I didn't have anything in this one, but some things, as you're keeping up with every team in every conference, some things kind of slip by you. And when you had brought to my attention that Charlotte was 3rd right now in the American, I was pretty surprised. I thought it was SMU or who's right behind
FAU?
them too. Yes. No, SMU and
UAB, Memphis, yeah.
Yes,
a lot
Memphis.
of dogs right at the top. They're kind of in that same realm in the AAC.
Right, but Charlotte just snuck right up there. They are in that third seed, so they're going to be playing hard. Rice is covered in just 6 of 15 conference games, so not great. And Charlotte 10-3-1 against the spread at home. So if I were to do anything, I would look at the home team here.
And you're looking at Rice, who's 5-11 in the conference, and Charlotte, who's 11-5 in the conference. So kind of the inverse. I like the 49ers. Not the best number, but I think they get it done tonight, especially with that seeding on the mind. Something to keep an eye on, just a game that I've got a good feel about. A couple of your plays here as we roll through our games before Curtis Terry joins us in about 5 minutes. 2 games that you're on quickly back-to-back. St. Bonaventure at George Washington. You like the Bonnies?
I do. I like the Bonnies. They're still playing for the 4 seed here because the 1 through 4 gets a double bye. They have to win outright. They have the tiebreaker over Massachusetts and VCU. So I think they covered this number. I think it's a short price. George Washington 6-10 against the spread at home. In their last 5 opponents have shot 50% from the field. That's not good. That's probably on St. Bonaventure. The Bonnies have probably shot over 50%. Let me double check that for us. But yeah, I made this number much higher than 7. So is it at 9 already? There we go.
It's getting up there. That's a number that's running away.
7.5. I'm okay till about 10. Then
okay.
I would say that's.
And that's not typically the norm. For people that make their own numbers, you'd like to see it within a point, maybe 2 points. But for you, in this particular matchup, you like it even extending further past that.
Well, I made it 11, so that's why I'm saying probably 10 is the tipping point, maybe even a little higher. I like 2.5 on the side.
Okay.
Yeah, so 7.5 was a great play. That's a 3.5 point difference there, but as we move up, getting a little bit less value.
Definitely something to keep in mind for people like you that make your own numbers and abide by them pretty strictly, which is a skill that I don't have. I'm pretty wishy-washy. Although, hey, I will say, I can't believe it took us this long into the show to get to this. Frank hyped us up plenty, although we do a good enough job of that on ourselves. You and I are on some really, really hot streaks as of late. I wanted to slip that in after we gave the pick so people didn't just automatically fade us. You were, 22-8 in your last 30?
Since Saturday.
Wow, that's just since Saturday. And I haven't played necessarily that volume, but in my last 10 college straight plays on the hardwood, I'm at 8-2.
Well, I noticed on Monday after we did the show here, then watching the games, I texted you. I was like, man, I think you went undefeated tonight.
I was 3-0 that day.
Yeah.
I had Duke, and I had first half and full game over in, what was the other big game that night? I'd have to look back. But
we were on that over.
All 3 picks I gave out hit. Oh, it was Baylor and Texas. Yeah. Baylor, Texas, first half full game. They flew way over. Never a sweat. I'll take that for a perfect 3-0 day, and I was on Wyoming yesterday to add to that. So, yeah, we are 30-10 combined in our last however many college basketball plays.
And sometimes you think, okay, is it like a no-hitter? You're not supposed to talk about it. But people go through these streaks, right? And when you're hot, you're hot. So we got to just keep it going, and maybe it's a good time to win some people money.
You got 2 more plays on the slate tonight. I just have the one. Let's go with yours. They're both totals.
Okay.
687, 688, LSU at Arkansas. You have this one at over 155.
I do. I like this one over one. Well, we got over 154 now, so the market is going against us. First time these two played 95-74. So Arkansas does have revenge. They are now at home. The thing with this team is they are so talented. They have really good athletes on their team. They shoot better at home, 46% from the field, and they just don't play very good defense. So they almost took Kentucky down the other day. I think they're going to come in this one ready to go, and I think we're going to see a lot of points here. Arkansas is 20-8 to the over on the year, 13-2 to the over at home.
Wow, so that's big, especially that number at home. You're on over that one. You're on another under. We talked about the AAC. We talked about SMU. They're hosting East Carolina today with a total of, you got 141.5 on the under?
There we go, SMU, 5 seed. Okay, yes, we're going under this total. East Carolina, worst offense in the AAC. Now, these two are 3 and 4 defense in this conference. So I think we're going to see a lot of defense here. SMU has a good trend, 10-5 to the under at home. First game was set at 137. It's kind of like the game you liked. Set at 137, landed 139. So slightly went over, but now we've got a total that's at 140. So I think we're going to see even lower than that 139 that we did in that first matchup with both of these teams playing their best defense.
I've got one play, and then we'll bring in our guest, Curtis Terry. I am on Butler, laying 2 at home, over Xavier. This is not your father's Butler Bulldogs, a joke that we've been making here for the last couple of weeks. Xavier defeated Butler 85-71 in Cincinnati last month, but Butler at home averaging over 80.5 points a game. This Bulldogs team really, really turns it around when they get back into the friendly confines. Xavier hasn't scored 70-plus in conference play. There's one game that they have outside of Georgetown and DePaul. So they beat the bad teams, but against the really, really good defenses in this Big East, they have averaged under 70 points a game. So I'll take Butler, who's averaging 10 more than that at home, to really have a hot performance. Xavier also allowing 81.5 points per game on the road. That's as of this whole year, and allowing 48% shooting from the field when playing on the road. So this is a Xavier team that both offensively and defensively is bad on the road, and this is a Butler team that is very, very good at home. So I'll take the Bulldogs laying the 2. This one was at 3 yesterday, so that's an example of waiting a little bit. Sometimes in this situation I'm lucky rather than good, but I'll take whatever luck I can get in this spot.
Hey, I like it. And Xavier has Marquette up next, so it could be a little bit of a look ahead here. And Butler, they've had a really tough stretch. They've played some of the best teams in the Big East, and now they really need a get-right game. So I think it's at this spot at home here hosting Xavier.
Butler minus the 2. I like that a lot here in the Big East. Well, from the Big East, we'll turn it to the Mountain West. Bring in our next guest, my man Curtis Terry. Curtis, former UNLV player, current UNLV broadcaster. The Runnin' Rebels with a big-time, and I mean big-time win over San Diego State last night. It was the first time in almost 5 years that UNLV had beaten San Diego State whatsoever. And as we bring in CT, that game last night, Curtis, the first time that I can remember UNLV out-muscling San Diego State from start to finish. It was a really impressive performance from Kevin Kruger's team.
Yeah, that doesn't happen a lot.
No.
You know that, and everybody around town knows that follows UNLV basketball program knows in order to beat San Diego State, you have to be physical, you have to be tough, you got to be a little nasty, and you got to be lucky to be good sometimes, like you just mentioned. But the Rebels were able to do that. Obviously, they started out great. Defensively took the fight right to them. I think they kind of caught the Aztecs off guard and were able to sustain and withstand the run that they went on and able to salt it away at the end. But big props to Coach Kevin Kruger and the staff for just being physical, tough, and really beating San Diego State at their own game.
I think the two things that stood out the most to me, CT, were A, the fact that Jaden Ledee did not look comfortable from start to finish. Rob Whaley and the other bigs, mainly Rob, but the other bigs as well, did a great job in really taking him out of the game and not letting him be an X factor like he normally is. But the other one, how about Brian Dutcher? Not only was he going nuts, got teed up, he got extended today through 2028. So they like the fire down there in San Diego. But just Ledee and Dutcher are not guys that get pushed off their spot, both on and off the court often, but they were both all kinds of out of sorts last night, and the Rebels win.
Yeah, again, to the game plan that Coach Kevin Kruger put together for his staff, with his staff, for his team, and you've got to give credit to them for executing it. But Rob Whaley, he was the man. He was responsible for single-handedly holding Ledee to only 2 field goals. I think he was 2 for 12, had 8 of 12 from the line. So all his damage was done at the free throw line, which we know he obviously draws a lot of fouls. But Rob did a great job, as the other guys, to be able to fight him, battle him, push him up the lane, and not let him catch on the block. And they were able to get the win. And then Coach Dutcher got a little fiery yesterday. You don't see him that animated on the sideline, but he definitely was excited, had some choice words, picked up a technical. But kudos to him for getting extended. Maybe just guys has to go out there and get a technical every day. Maybe we'll get a contract extension.
Hey, Curtis, so there was another upset, not just the Rebels. I have to bring up Nevada. They went on the road, beat Boise State by 10. Now that's 6 wins in a row for them. What do you make of that, them taking down that number 1 seed and going into this tournament? How tough is this Mountain West tournament going to be?
Well, let's see. We'll touch on Nevada a little bit, or the school up north, or Reno, or however you want to
call them. Yeah.
You got to give them credit. What Coach Steve Alford is doing with that group, they're playing some really good basketball. They had the big comeback win against Colorado State at Colorado when Jared Lucas hit the half-court shot after missing 3 free throws, which he never does. But they're just playing really good basketball. And I think, first of all, when the Rebels go up there on Saturday, it's going to be a really tough game. It's sold out at Lawler Event Center, so it's going to be a clash of in-state rivals. But again, there's going to be something on the line, because depending on how things shake out tonight and Friday and early Saturday in the Mountain West Conference, this could be 2 teams playing for an outright conference championship, for a share of it. And so there's a lot still to be on the line. But going into the tournament, not only is Nevada playing really good basketball, as are the Rebels, but you're hearing talk about 6 teams potentially making the NCAA tournament. And now there's talk that if the Rebels go on a run here and get to that championship game, or if they run the table from here on out, then you're talking about possibly 7 teams from the Mountain West getting into the NCAA tournament. And so regardless of how many teams get in, I think this is the best season of college basketball in the Mountain West. And you got to give credit to everybody involved at all the schools, the players, the coaches, and obviously the fans and people supporting them, because this is a monumental season for college basketball in the Mountain West.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to really be involved with, both from the school and the conference perspective on my end all year. But yeah, as you said, CT, just looking at the standings right now, right at this particular moment, there are 4 teams within a half a game of first place in the Mountain West. It is the tightest and most competitive conference at this level in college basketball. Utah State right now a half game up on Nevada, UNLV, and Boise State. The win last night pushed UNLV over San Diego State in the standings, which is enormous for the Rebels. They will want to face off against San Diego State as late in that tournament as possible. But the team at the top, Utah State, takes on San Jose State tonight. And this is a really interesting game from a number perspective, because Utah State controls their own destiny. If they win tonight and Saturday against New Mexico, no questions asked, they are the regular season champ in the Mountain West. Utah State, a 10.5-point favorite tonight at San Jose State. Utah State has dominated the Spartans historically. Is that a trend that you see continuing in this matchup? Knee-jerk reaction would be like, yes, Utah State's going to go in there and handle business. But again, what we've seen over the last couple of weeks in the Mountain West Conference, I think anything can happen. And it's the biggest glaring thing that telling of that is when Air Force goes to New Mexico and wins at the Pit. Yeah. And then we got to give Air Force credit. They came here and won. San Jose State plays really good basketball. And again, this time of year, teams that have been struggling a little bit, they get their fire and their excitement for trying to be upsets, trying to be spoilers. And so for them to be able to come in there and they can really change everything. So if San Jose State can get a win, that changes everything for everybody else at the top of the conference. But then again, New Mexico has a chance to go into Logan, Utah on Saturday. And if they get a win, that changes everything again. So again, it's a lot at hand for everybody. But most importantly, it's for seeding right now and for those teams at the top, which glad that the Rebels are one of those. You still have a chance to win a conference championship outright in the regular season.
Let's dive into this game on Saturday a little bit more. So the Rebels going to Nevada. Wolfpack's going to be a small favorite there. But really, in the game here at the Thomas & Mack Center, UNLV controlled that entire game. It wasn't until the last few minutes that the Wolfpack came back and won that one. So what does UNLV have to do Saturday to go there and get this win?
Man, so we got to rehash that loss that they had at Thomas & Mack. Thanks, Alex. They've got to play the same game that they've been doing. And for this team right now, they're just being very physical. They're just really controlling the game in every facet right now. I mean, they're doing a great job defensively. Obviously, they're shutting teams down. They're doing a great job on the boards. They're sharing the ball offensively. They're knocking down shots. So for the Rebels, they just got to come out and continue to execute the game plan. I think they'll probably change up some things that they did when the last time they played the Wolfpack here in Vegas. But it's going to be a matter of going into a very noisy Lawler Event Center. Like we mentioned, it's already sold out. And so it's going to be senior night as well. So there's a lot that adds into it. And it's the rivalry game. And so I think the biggest thing for the Rebels got to come in there and just handle the moment and not let the excitement or the atmosphere overcome them. Because if they do, it can be a long night in Reno. But hopefully for the Rebels, they come out there, play physical. But they've got to compete. They've got to rebound. And they can't let Blackshear, they can't let Lucas get going early. If they do, it's going to be a long game. And that's what they've been able to do as of late, is shut down the opposing team's best players and make somebody else beat you.
Joined here on Sports by the Book by former UNLV Runnin' Rebel and current Runnin' Rebel broadcaster Curtis Terry. And CT, one other matchup around the Mountain West tonight is New Mexico hosts Fresno State. The Lobos a 17.5-point favorite, a huge number. Has this Fresno State team just fallen off a cliff as of late or what? Because this is a number that would not be this big earlier on in the season for sure.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Fresno State is they've been going through some growing pains, obviously. And they took UNLV down to the wire a couple weeks ago in Fresno. They had the same thing happen to them when they were playing Utah State just recently. They couldn't finish off that win, unfortunately. But I think they're just having a hard go of it right now. They've got some guys that have been injured, inconsistent from that standpoint with the lineups. And anytime that happens, you're trying to adjust and really make shift on the fly. And so for them, I give them credit, and Coach Hudson give them credit for what they've been able to do and achieve. But again, that number just says what they're kind of facing in terms of uphill battle, especially with New Mexico still having a lot on the line themselves. And so I expect New Mexico to go out there and get the win because, again, they've got a lot more to play for at this stage of the game of the season.
Curtis, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit because Matt and I have been talking about this, and we haven't done this segment yet on the show, so we'll do it with you. So in the last few weeks, just all of college basketball. Give me like one to three teams that have really surprised you and done really well the last few weeks that you're going to be watching to make a good push in the NCAA tournament.
Oh, that's a tough one. Boy, that is a tough one.
I told you I was putting you on the spot.
I know you did. Who I've been watching a lot of lately, and I think it's by default because they've been on TV. I've been watching a lot of Florida.
Yeah.
University of Florida, the Florida Gators. And obviously there's an assistant coach there, Coach Carlin Hartman, that was here on staff with Kevin his first year. Got to know him a bit. So I follow his team and what they're doing down there in Gainesville right now. They're playing some really good basketball. They beat up on Alabama last night. I think they're a group that has got a good mix of guards. They've got some bigs. They've got some wings. They're a team that could probably make some noise. We talked about this a couple weeks ago with you guys. I think Houston is looking like a really, really good team right now. Obviously, they're expected to be up there. But just the way that they're playing, it just shows a lot. I hate to give them credit because we beat them, even though that's a good thing. Creighton's playing some really good basketball right now as well. I think they're a team that can sneak in and really kind of make some noise when it comes to the NCAA tournament. But hands down to me, I think the hottest team right now and a team that nobody wants to play, especially on this half of the country, is the Running Rebels. I think what they've been doing and winning 10 out of 11 and just the streak that they're on right now, the way that they're playing, it's a style of basketball that nobody wants to play. You can see it in the opponent's eyes. So hopefully we can talk about the Rebels making a run and getting to the NCAA tournament because I think they're a team that could get to that second weekend.
Yeah, CT, in the Mountain West tournament, this UNLV team going to be a really tough matchup, but that's far from the only tournament going on in Las Vegas starting next week. 5 conference tournaments in Las Vegas. Actually, one of them starting tomorrow, the WAC tournament getting going from the Orleans very, very shortly. Just your thoughts. You've been in Las Vegas a long time. You have seen Vegas not only from a national and a professional sports perspective grow as a sporting town, but in the college basketball world alone. All of a sudden, they used to call Madison Square Garden the Mecca. Now Las Vegas as a whole is the college basketball Mecca this time of the year. So what has it been like for you seeing from what it was when you came to UNLV as a student in the early to mid-2000s to now seeing it in the early to mid-2020s, just the college basketball landscape from tournament time here in Vegas?
Well, first of all, thanks for aging me. I appreciate that. It's amazing to see because when I first came to school here, 2004, I'll just let it be known so I'm not older than that.
Had the hair back then?
Man, I know. We had this conversation last night. I might have to bring it back. This is more professional. But, no, it was funny because it was just the Running Rebels. And then you had NBA Summer League, which is a big draw. But since then, now you've got USA Basketball. You've still got the Summer League, which is expanded and just blown up. It's on steroids with the Las Vegas Aces. With all that happens at the grassroots level around town in the summertime with all the tournaments that they have there. And then you still have the Running Rebels. And now there's talk that might get an NBA team here. So just from a basketball standpoint, aside from the other sports in town, Vegas has just blown up from a basketball sense. And you could say, New York, Madison Square Garden is the mecca of basketball. I think in its own right, Las Vegas has kind of become just the hub for basketball at all levels across the board. And it really shows. And then you talk about the in-season tournament from the NBA. Mm-hmm. So, again, there's a lot of good things that are happening in Las Vegas, not just with basketball, but with professional sports as a whole. And it's probably the hottest market right now in terms of real estate. A lot of people are moving here as well. And so, again, to be in Las Vegas and to be a part of it, like you guys, like myself, it's good times, it's fun times to be in Las Vegas, to be able to enjoy this because it's definitely a change of the times from 25 years ago to what it is now. And just amazing just to see the growth and how the city's expanded and how much more it can achieve.
And CT, I, for one, I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to the Las Vegas LeBrons when he comes in as the ownership group.
Yeah, hopefully they pick a new name. That's kind of like when they went with the Bobcats out there in Charlotte.
I'm just focus grouping names for them.
Very much so. I wanted to ask, you brought up NBA. You're talking about NBA. Do you have an NBA team?
I'm originally from the Seattle area, so I used to cheer for the Sonics. So I despise Oklahoma City. They're really good. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is really good, but I just despise them for the simple fact that they stole my team from the Sonics. But the team I follow now, we talked about this last week, is I follow the Utah Jazz because my brother's an assistant coach there. And so I'm very loyal to family, and so I support them. I watch them. They're sitting on the outside of that play-in as of right now, so hopefully they can break some hearts and sneak in and steal the spot. But that's who I follow. But other than that, I'm just a basketball fan. If there's a good game on, I'm going to watch it, whether that's high school, college, WNBA, or NBA.
I'm sorry, we did talk about that last time.
Yeah.
I forgot that. But Utah Jazz getting points tonight. Chicago Bulls going to Utah, getting 4. So I was actually looking at that earlier. I think that game should be more like a pick.
Yeah, pick the Jazz. That's what you do.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. CT, last question for you before we let you take off. There are 3 teams in college basketball behind us at the South Point right now that have 5-1 odds to win the national championship. UConn, Purdue, Houston. Who wins it all between those 3?
Houston.
Our director, Sean, clapping behind the glass. He thinks so, too.
I think UConn, they're really, really good. I think they've shown that. But I think it's hard to repeat. Everybody knows that, right? It's hard to go back-to-back on anything. Purdue, I like it. The former strength coach at UNLV, Jason Cable, is now at Purdue. So I followed their success and what he's doing there. I hope he would be able to get the chance to win a national championship. I don't see it. I think Houston right now is the best well-rounded team, and their guards are something that you don't want to deal with, especially come March.
Kelvin Sampson and the boys. We'll see.
Yes, sir.
Thanks so much for hopping in with us as the Rebels look to continue their success and in the regular season with their 11th win in their last 12 games this Saturday up in Reno. CT, thanks for hopping on. Safe travels as the Rebels wrap up the 2024 regular season. Appreciate you, buddy.
Alex and Matt, we'll see you guys soon. Go
yes,
Rebels.
Sir, absolutely.
Go Rebels.
We'll step aside for a 2-minute break. Vinny Maiulo joins us to close the show. Coming up, this is Sports by the Book.
From the South Point studio, the perfect blend of sports.
But I think the Niners are going to wear them down. Detroit Pistons lost their 36 games.
Comedy.
See over-under on that relationship lasting. I'm going to put mayo in the coffee.
Yeah.
I am beautiful. And a whole lot of Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Pittsburgh. Join Ryan McCormick.
That's at least 2 picks outside of our own in the first round next year. Oreo.
And host Frank Nicotero.
I look at the clock, I go,
Watch Punchlines live at noon every weekday.
Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. Bingo! And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day.
Welcome back into Sports by the Book. A big thank you to our man Curtis Terry for hopping on. Curtis, a former UNLV basketball player, current UNLV basketball broadcaster. We love to get his recaps of these Mountain West matchups because not only has he been around the conference forever, he played in it. He was on that 2007 Sweet 16 team for the Runnin' Rebels, so he knows a thing or two about winning in Vegas. He knows a thing or two about the head coach, Kevin Kruger. He was a good friend and a teammate of him, still good friends to this day. So, Curtis, thanks for hopping on. I'll see him later tonight at the Kevin Kruger Radio Show. We're finishing up our show here with another esteemed guest. Our man from behind the counter, Vinny Maiulo, joins. Vinny, thanks for hopping on. And I want to ask you the same question that I asked Curtis.
Yep.
Because you've been around the Las Vegas sports landscape for a while. From, even this millennium, we'll say, from 2000 until now, what are your thoughts on just the college basketball landscape, specifically in Las Vegas, and how the tournaments have changed everything?
Well, good to be with you, Matt. Alex, Curtis did a nice job. He had a little extra hop, I noticed, after the big win last night. Right? He's a little
good.
Elevated, as did Alex, a former Runnin' Rebel.
That's right.
My kids, too. Both my children, Vincent and Ellen, both proud alums of UNLV. So, but to your point, Matt, I will tell you what's really been great recently is the addition, the expansion, I should say, of the conference tournaments here. You know, particularly the Pac-12, which is, obviously this will be the last year of it. But I don't know. Let's see who replaces it. The fact that at some point we will have a Final Four here. Let's remember now, as a host city of a Super Bowl, eventually we will get a Final Four, and I think it may be on the early board, perhaps 28 or maybe sooner. But the reason I say that is because we know that Final Fours are now played in football stadiums. So at some point we will have that here. But Las Vegas has always been front and center for the NCAA tournament. I mean, let's face it; those first 4 days of the NCAA tournament have traditionally been tremendous attended weekends here. And I remember a time back in the late '80s where I had to adjust a rule, a procedural rule, if you will, more of a scheduling rule in the race and sportsbook when I was at Caesars. I'd given some people off, for they had time coming, so they were taking vacation in March, and then I remember there were 20 people deep in 10 lines. I didn't have enough windows. I actually had 12 windows on the counter, and the worst thing I could hear is, "When are you going to open up these other 2 windows?" And I'm like, "Oh my God!" So I had to run out to the pit and get pit clerks, and just to get them to a quick
work them in
one-on-one on how to write tickets and things. And then the hotel front desk call and say, "Why are we getting all these calls about people wanting to come out here in the middle of March?" So I started to put out a sports event calendar and distribute it not only to the property but to the country. So you have that element. But in recent years, Mac, that you're talking about, Matt, here in the last decade is the expansion of the conference tournaments. And the fact that folks do love to get here for the Las Vegas experience. And again, March Madness for us has already begun.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Vinny, we missed you this weekend, but you were busy. You were at the Motor Speedway.
I was at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and let me tell you, I tip my cap to fans for all sports across the country, but NASCAR fans are right up there. I mean, we do a lot of, we're breaking down college basketball right now. We talk football, we talk all the major sports, everything, right? Lou Finicaro was in on Friday. We were talking about hockey and things, and the UFC and all. But I will tell you what, listen to Brendan Gaughan's Gone Racing with Jeff Motley, because they are an extension of the fan base. Which, now I'll tell you right now, I was out there. There was a hurricane out there.
It was brutal.
And the Jets at Nellis right next door were grounded, but the NASCAR fans were not. And so I love the NASCAR fans. We did give away tickets, not only tickets to the events, but we gave away bet tickets. And there were 7 guaranteed winners, because we not only gave out winners for the race individually and the Xfinity race on Saturday, but we gave away the brackets. So we took so bracket A, 4 drivers. We gave some folks the opportunity to have, so everybody had a winning driver in that group, and then manufacturer. So it was a lot of fun. And again, I tip my cap to the folks out there enduring the elements. Race went off, was great, and the fans were terrific. So I had a good time. But Alex, I'll be back Saturday.
Very good. Our last big slate.
Well, we've got some smaller conference tournaments going on, but this is the last. Next week begins the big push with the conference tournaments. Yes.
So, what does the process look like for you and your staff behind the counter, as far as these low level tournaments into the mid majors, into the big boys? What does the handicap look like on your end? Does it differ from a regular season matchup, because these are all neutral site games? And how do you guys handle the workload? What's your strategy as far as getting numbers for all these games as we get to the tournaments?
Good question, Matt. You look at it, and it's a good opportunity. And I was just sitting in the back with Chris Andrews, director here at Sound Point. Jimmy Vaccaro's back there. And really now it's a time to really start fine-tuning and staying up on a real strict basis for power ratings, right? Because these are the conferences too. Somebody's going to sneak up on a blue blood, potentially, coming out of this week. So you want to pay close attention to that. we've got power ratings on these teams just like we do on the top 80, 100 teams. So you want to take that into account. You're doing it on a daily basis now too, because how the games roll over and things like that. So not a whole lot of difference in terms of the process of it, but you're really kind of looking to say, wow, wait a minute, who do we? Is there somebody we missed, or maybe we weren't paying as close attention? Eastern Kentucky goes down last night. They were the top seed, right?
Yeah, they hadn't lost at home all year.
And so they go down last night, and you're paying attention to that going, wow. So this is a time of year where you really want to be cognizant of those types of matchups. Kind of feel bad, too. I just mentioned that. My wife is a EKU alum. So
no way.
Probably, it was a little bit of a...
Colonels, right?
Yep, the Fighting Colonels, and there was a groan during the...
You're just doing your job, Vinny.
That's it. That's all I can do. I mean, it's not personal.
It was her birthday yesterday, right?
My wife's birthday was actually on Monday.
Okay.
So, she... the birthday present stopped last night when the Colonels went down. So, sorry, honey.
The Jacksonville Dolphins.
That's right. Very good.
That's our director Sean's favorite team. He's
I had them,
You had them last night?
Only the points. I did not have them upsetting them. I just,
No, I thought it'd be close.
For you.
Yeah,
I will say, Vinny, I love what you guys have done. If you were able to come down to the South Point, this is the front of the college basketball daily sheet that we normally have. I love that you guys are putting the odds for the conference tournaments on the back. And I want to ask you a question. Right now, it's just the WCC that you guys have, but you're going to be adding more. Gonzaga opened a -120 favorite to win the tournament. St. Mary's opened even. San Francisco at 14-1. Those are the top three teams in terms of the odds. Right now, Gonzaga's still -120, but some movement to St. Mary's. They're now +110. And San Francisco all the way down from 14-1 to 10-1. Is that an action-driven move?
Yeah, that's money that talks to that. And first of all, I mean, you look at Gonzaga because of the way they won that last matchup with St. Mary's. Right? I mean, St. Mary's had won the earlier game, and Gonzaga came back and reasserted themselves, right? Kind of got, because really Gonzaga was not the Gonzaga of recent years, right? So now all of a sudden you've got to be very cognizant of it. They love to play here, of course, and that conference does start tomorrow with Pacific versus Pepperdine. Pepperdine's probably going to be about a 10, 11-point favorite in that game. So, but to your point, Matt, so money came in on San Francisco, and if you, as a bookmaker, if you're obviously going to take money and you're going to lower prices, you have to be prepared to raise prices as well. So, the right thing to do there was to try to draw some money on St. Mary's, who will probably learn a lesson too from the Gonzaga game last week, and in recent years in this conference. The Dons have been a difficult out, so it doesn't shock me that they took a little bit of money at 14-1.
They're tough. The former Don, Bill Cartwright, will be in attendance.
Oh, excellent.
I have that on good authority.
All right.
On good authority.
All right. Very
good. I put Curtis on the spot. I feel bad. I forget that not everybody is following every conference, and he's busy and actually has a job.
He does follow. I will say, I'm with him a lot. He does follow every conference. Just putting him on the spot like that's your fault.
I know. I feel bad, but now
that's your job, Alex.
Now I'm going to put Vinny on the spot.
Go ahead.
I want to know who are your three teams that keep an eye out for. You've really impressed you in the last few weeks, and who teams probably do not want to see down the stretch in the tournament.
Yeah, those teams. Teams. Look, you can use the term. Maybe you don't want to see them. I thought Curtis was. The Rebels are playing terrific. I mean, so that's easy. But I'll give you three other ones to keep an eye on. I think Kentucky in recent weeks, if Kentucky can defend 8, 10, 12% more.
Even just a little bit better.
Right?
Yeah.
Just give me 10% more defense. I mean, the team is outscoring. They score at an NBA,
yes.
Potentially an NBA. Well, maybe not an NBA because
basically all NBA
NBA is, there's no defense at all. But if Kentucky can defend, let's say 10% more, then they're gonna be a very difficult team. North Carolina, so I'm getting pretty blue-blooded here, but this game between with Duke this weekend is gonna tell a lot. Staying in the SEC again, Tennessee is playing some good ball.
Yeah.
I think, and I've said all along, and this is not going out on a limb, that the Big 12 is going to have the most bids this year of any conference.
I've seen potentially 9.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me. I mean, and again, not that they're sneaking up on anybody, but Iowa State is going to be a very difficult out for some teams. And conversely, there's some things you want to look at too. We were talking just before we came, during the break. watch the health of some teams and particularly the depth of some teams. If you look at the Big 12, Kansas does not go particularly deep. Neither does Houston, and Houston took a hit this week. Take a look. I don't think Joe Tugler's playing tonight for them, and that's up front. That kind of impacts their rotation. And now they do defend, although in like the last couple of weeks they've not defended as much or as well, I should say. But those are some of the teams I think that bear watching, Alex.
To your point, Kansas has the least amount of bench points in that conference, and Houston is the second.
Yeah.
Your turn. Who do you got? I'm putting you on the spot here.
So two of my three are the same that Vinny mentioned.
I had a couple.
So
Okay.
Definitely Tennessee. They definitely have made me really start watching them. Kentucky has been playing very good, and Jeff made a great point. Like offense, and then really step on the brake and have defense there at the end of the game, and it seemed to be working for them. And then last is Gonzaga. I think Gonzaga's been playing very well. They're 13-1 in their last. I think that was an impressive win over St. Mary's, who I think is a very good team. And so I think they're starting to turn it on at the right time, too.
Good point.
Yeah, Gonzaga 60-1 to win everything right now. I was going to say Auburn, and then I remember that they lost at my alma mater, App State, so I can't go with that. Tennessee is one that I'm definitely looking at. Kentucky was the other one that you said that I'm keeping an eye on. And, while we're talking Blue Bloods, Arizona, sleeping giant. They opened 18-1 preseason. They're now 9-1. I'm seeing the fourth best odds on the board here at South Point. Arizona, a sleeping giant, if you want to call it that, with the newly extended Sean Miller.
I didn't mention them simply because I think in close games in particular, Matt, I get a little concerned about the coaching, moves or lack of. Again, I hate to, but not coach, but their coaching is going to be a huge factor once we get to the big dance for sure.
Make me nervous too, because if a team can figure them out, like Washington State, who has beat them twice already this year, that makes makes me a little nervous.
Cougars have been
yes,
they're a kryptonite so far. On the year. Well, Benny, thank you so much for hopping by. I know
great
it's
to
a
be
crazy,
with
busy
both
time
of
for
you. That's okay. Always good to be with you both. You're doing a great job. Keep it up, and the crew.
Really busy time for just about everybody involved in sports betting and college basketball specifically. Want to thank our man Curtis Terry for hopping on earlier as a guest. Full crew behind the glass. We got Caden, we got Jerry, we got Sean, we got the Drew Dog. For Vinny Maiulo, my partner Alex White, I'm Matt Neverett saying thanks so much for tuning in. This has been Sports by the Book. Jeff Parles back in this seat tomorrow at 3 o'clock right here on South Point Studios. Thanks so much for tuning in. Good night, everybody.